The pool hall went quiet when Ice Pick Red walked through the door. Not the kind of quiet where people finish their shots and glance up. The kind where cue sticks freeze mid-stroke, where conversations die in throats, where even the bartender, halfway through pouring a drink, stops with the bottle tilted in mid-air. It was 1963. Metten's pool room on 118th and 7th Avenue. The air thick with cigarette smoke and the chalk dust that floated like snow in the overhead lights. Frank Lucas, barely out of his teens, was leaning against the back table, watching the room with the kind of attention that kept you alive in Harlem. He had $3 in his pocket, $3 between him and nothing. Red's entrance changed the temperature of the room by 10 degrees. 6'2", shoulders like a prize fighter, pockets visibly stuffed with cash that made his suit jacket bulge at odd angles. Everyone in Harlem knew what Ice Pick Red did for a living. Everyone knew his price, $25,000 per contract. Everyone knew his method. The name wasn't metaphorical. Red walked to the center table, slapping down a roll of bills thick enough to choke on. His voice carried across the silent room like a challenge. $1,000 a game. Anyone. Nobody moved. Red's eyes swept the room, taking inventory of every face that wouldn't meet his gaze. Pool sharks who'd been running tables all afternoon suddenly found their shoelaces fascinating. Men who'd been talking big money just minutes earlier developed intense interest in the ceiling tiles. Frank Lucas watched this performance with the analytical precision of someone studying a chess game. He saw the calculation in Red's movements, the deliberate swagger, the way Red's hand kept drifting to his jacket pocket, not where you'd keep a weapon, but where you'd keep proof of how dangerous you were. Red was selling fear, and everyone in the room was buying. Everyone except Frank. Frank pushed off from the wall and walked toward the center table. Each step measured, each breath controlled. His shoes clicked against the scuffed linoleum with the rhythm of someone who'd made a decision and wouldn't be talked out of it. "I'll play you," Frank said. The room's silence somehow got quieter. Red turned slowly, his expression cycling from surprise to amusement to something darker. He looked Frank up and down like he was evaluating merchandise at a pawn shop. "You got $1,000, boy?" Frank met his eyes without blinking. "I got 3. Someone in the back of the room coughed. It sounded like a death rattle. Red's face went through another transformation. The amusement disappeared completely, replaced by something cold and surgical. This wasn't business anymore. This was personal. This was disrespect. "You're messing with me," Red said, his voice dropping an octave. "I'm not," Frank replied. "I can beat you, so the money's just details." Red's hand moved toward his pocket, not the one with the cash, the other one. And that's when Bumpy Johnson walked into the pool hall. If you're hooked by this incredible moment of pure calculated risk, hit that subscribe button right now. What happens next will completely change Frank Lucas's life, and you need to see how one question transformed everything. The door didn't slam, didn't creak, just opened and closed with the soft click of someone who didn't need to announce themselves. But every person in Metten's pool room knew Bumpy Johnson was 5'9" and weighed maybe 160 pounds. He wore a dark blue suit with a red tie and matching lapel. Expensive without being flashy, tailored without being ostentatious. At 63 years old, he moved with the deliberate economy of someone who spent half his life in prison and the other half ruling Harlem streets. He wasn't the biggest man in the room. He wasn't the loudest. He didn't need to be. Respect wasn't something Bumpy demanded. It was something he commanded through pure presence. Through the accumulated weight of 1,000 decisions, 100 wars, and decades of never backing down. The pool hall responded like a military formation. Back straightened, eyes forward. Even Ice Pick Red, a man who made his living creating fear, felt his hand drop away from his pocket. Bumpy walked through the frozen tableau with the unhurried pace of someone inspecting his domain. His eyes took in the scene. Red standing over the center table, money spread out like a gauntlet. Frank Lucas, this kid from North Carolina who'd been making noise around Harlem for a few months, standing toe-to-toe with the professional operator. Bumpy stopped next to Frank, looked at him for a long moment, then asked one question. Can you beat him? Not what are you doing? Not do you have the money? Not are you crazy? Just can you beat him? The question contained universes. It was a test wrapped in an opportunity, wrapped in a lifeline. Answer wrong, and you're just another fool who bit off more than he could chew. Answer right, and you're someone Bumpy Johnson might remember. Frank didn't hesitate, didn't pause to consider, didn't hedge with qualifiers or conditions. Yes, one word, absolute certainty. No performance, no bravado, just a statement of fact delivered with the same tone you use to report the weather. Bumpy studied Frank's face for 3 more seconds. Then he nodded once and turned to Red. Rack the balls. Bumpy pulled a roll of bills from his inside pocket, the kind of roll that made Red's look like pocket change, and counted out $1,000 onto the table. The bills landed with the soft whisper of power changing hands. Red looked at the money, looked at Bumpy, looked at Frank. His expression went through rapid calculations, weighing options and outcomes. Fair break, Bumpy said. Not a question, a condition. Fair break, Red agreed. Pool is mathematics disguised as sport. Angles and velocity, spin in English, the geometry of collision translated into felt and ivory. Frank Lucas had spent the last 6 months in Harlem's pool halls doing more than hustling. He'd been studying, watching, learning the language of the game the way a linguist learns dialects. He'd watched how the old-timers played, not just their shots, but their psychology. How they set up combinations 3 balls ahead. How they left their opponents with nothing. Red broke. A solid crack that sent balls scattering across green felt. The 2-ball dropped. Solids. Red ran 4 balls without breaking rhythm. Professional. Efficient. Each shot designed not just to pocket, but to position for the next. This was someone who made money at tables, not just in dark alleys. Then Red missed. Nothing dramatic, just a slightly miscalculated angle on the 5-ball. It rattled in the pocket and stayed out. Frank's turn. He moved around the table with the careful attention of someone conducting surgery. Checked angles, visualized trajectories. The room had gone completely silent again, but this time it was the silence of held breath, of witness. Frank dropped the 9-ball in the corner pocket, then the 11, then the 13. Each shot precise, each position perfect for what came next. Red's expression never changed, but something shifted in his posture. The casual confidence evaporated, replaced by the focused intensity of someone who just realized they'd miscalculated. Frank ran the table, when the 8-ball dropped into the side pocket with a soft thunk. The room exhaled collectively. Someone started to clap, then thought better of it when they remembered who was in the room. Bumpy picked up Red's $1,000 and handed it to Frank. Their eyes met again, and something passed between them, an understanding, an acknowledgement. Red stood up, straightened his jacket, and walked out of the pool hall without a word. A professional, recognizing he'd been outplayed. No threats, no promises of revenge, just acceptance. Frank stood there with $1,000 in his hand, more money than he'd ever held, trying to process what had just happened. Bumpy turned to leave, paused, looked back at Frank. "Come with me." The car was a black Cadillac, immaculate inside and out. Leather seats that smelled like money and power. Frank sat in the passenger seat while Bumpy drove through Harlem with the easy familiarity of someone who knew every corner, every alley, every face on every stoop. They didn't drive far, just a circuit through the neighborhood, but every stop told a story. First stop, Cool Breeze's spot on 125th. Cool Breeze was a numbers runner who'd put out word that Frank had shorted him on a transaction. It wasn't true, but in Harlem, perception could get you eliminated. Bumpy walked Frank inside. Cool Breeze looked up, saw who'd entered, and his face went through the same transformation Red's had. Surprise, fear, calculation. "This boy's with me now," Bumpy said. Simple, direct, no negotiation. Cool Breeze's smile appeared so fast it looked painful. "No problem, Bumpy. No problem at all. We're all good here." Second stop, Fat Daddy's restaurant on Lenox. Fat Daddy ran protection in 3 blocks and had made noise about Frank operating without permission. Same script, same result. Fat Daddy practically beamed as he shook Frank's hand, his grip just a fraction too tight, his smile just a fraction too wide. Third stop, fourth stop, fifth. Every business Frank had ever crossed, every person who'd ever had a problem with this kid from North Carolina who didn't know the rules, didn't respect the hierarchy, didn't understand how things worked. Bumpy made them all sit, made them all smile, made them all understand that touching Frank Lucas now meant going through Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson. And nobody was going through Bumpy. By the time they got back to the Cadillac for the last time, the sun was setting over Harlem. The streets were changing shifts, day workers heading home, night operators heading out. The neighborhood transforming from one world to another. Bumpy didn't drive Frank home, just pulled over on a random corner, engine still running. "You've got protection now," Bumpy said. "But protection isn't a shield, it's a responsibility. You understand?" Frank nodded. He understood. Protection meant expectations. It meant owing. It meant being part of something larger than himself. "I'll be watching," Bumpy added. "Don't make me regret this." Then Frank was on the sidewalk, watching the Cadillac pull away into traffic, carrying with it the most powerful man in Harlem and the weight of what had just been given. Frank Lucas had walked into a pool hall with $3 and walked out under Bumpy Johnson's protection. One game, one question, one answer. Everything had changed. What happened next became the foundation of a legend, though how much of that legend is fact remains debated to this day. According to Frank Lucas, he became Bumpy Johnson's driver and right-hand man. He claimed they worked together for 13 years, 9 months, and 8 days. He said Bumpy taught him everything: how to move through the city, how to build networks, how to think 10 steps ahead. Others tell a different story. Bumpy's widow, Mame Johnson, insisted her husband never fully trusted Lucas, never made him more than an errand runner. Other people from Bumpy's circle claimed the mentorship Frank described happened with a different young man entirely. The truth lives somewhere in the gray space between competing narratives, as it often does with legends. What's not debatable, after that day in the pool hall, Frank Lucas's trajectory changed. Whether through Bumpy's direct mentorship or simply by observing from proximity, Frank learned how power operated in Harlem. He watched, he studied, he absorbed. And when Bumpy Johnson collapsed from a heart attack in 1968 while eating breakfast at Wells' restaurant, Frank was positioned to step into a vacuum of power that would eventually make him one of the most notorious figures in New York's criminal history. But that's another story, one built on the foundation of a single afternoon, a $1,000 bet, and one question that changed everything. This story examines a pivotal moment in mid-20th century Harlem history, documenting the intersection of street culture and organized operations. The narrative illustrates how reputation and protection functioned in that era, and how a single decision could alter someone's entire trajectory. Historical accounts of these events vary significantly, and this retelling acknowledges those contradictions. If this historical breakdown fascinated you, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the real stories behind the legends. And speaking of legends, we just uncovered another incredible tale about a moment when everything hung on a single choice. It's dropping soon on the channel. Drop a comment below. Have you ever made a split-second decision that changed your entire path? Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most important answer is the simplest one.